Quick get to know me before we get started here. So my name is Ross. I am the Chief Learning Strategist at my organization, Still These Thoughts. If you're part of my newsletter, that gets sent out to about 3,000 L&D pros every week. Thank you for being part of that. If you want to be part of that, go on to my LinkedIn account and you can sign up there. Today, we are going to talk about how to intelligently apply generative AI tools into your workflow. Now, the reason I'm doing this conversation today is it's really interesting that a lot of the big names in the technology space, like Google, like Microsoft, like OpenAI, who create ChatGPT, are now bringing these tools in an enterprise version to a workspace near you. The biggest criticism of a lot of the large language models so far, and rightly so, has been the handling and safety of users' data. And you should be very conscious of the data that you are giving these tools at the moment in time. My number one suggestion to you is do not put any company data into these current free tools or even a paid version. Only do that with an enterprise integrated tool because it's trained on your data and it's locked down to your data. Very important to note, and that's my lawyer speech over. However, we've got Google Bard, we've got Microsoft Copilot, and we've got ChatGPT Enterprise now entering the workforce development stack. That brings the question to, how do you intelligently apply these as a L&D team? And how do you put the same parameters and best practices in place for your workforce too? Before we do that, let's talk about a couple of bits of data that come from McKinsey. This image here, should I say, focuses on looking at the advances in technical capabilities that could have the most impact on activities performed by educators, professionals, and creatives. And what we can see here is that workforce training and educators is right at the top of this. What this is basically saying is that because of the potential of automation, what that allows us to do with generative AI is actually focus on more capability in other things that we are doing. So by automating some of the tasks that we do that kind of get us away from the boring, monotonous stuff, what we're actually able to do is be incredibly creative and productive and provide better performance support to an organization. The second data point from McKinsey here is looking at that Gen AI can have the biggest impact on collaboration, application of expertise. And the activities that you see here have, very low potential for automation, which basically means only a human can do them. It's very difficult for artificial intelligence or any form of technology to do that. But what they're finding is that by adding generative AI tools into the mix, is that people can apply expertise, manage people, and interface with stakeholders better. Of course, some of this on McKinsey's dubious speculation, and we will see over time how this plays out in the workforce. Really important piece here, and I'll be doing a future conversation on human skills in the future workforce shortly, so keep an eye out for that. This is a bit of research by Microsoft, and I call this the kind of skills in the AI era. And what they've done is broken apart the human brain to specifically look at what are the tasks and what are the skills humans will need to have to navigate this continual future that we're always building with all different types of new technology. So what we can see here is flexibility, or I like to think as adaptability, analytical judgment, intellectual curiosity, emotional intelligence, creative evaluation, bias detection, handling. And the bit we're going to talk about in more detail today is AI delegation and using prompts to interact with generative artificial intelligence tools. Now, this is interesting because this makes up 21% of what they're looking at as the skill brain. So it's really important to understand where and when could generative AI be helpful, because it's not always going to be the right tool for the job. And you don't always need to use it just because of market expectations. We'll talk through a framework that's going to help you make more sense of that. Now, before we do that, what's really interesting at the moment is that the hype cycle, which I love here from Gartner for AI, is super high for generative artificial intelligence. So what we can see here with this golden arrow to generative AI is that we are currently at the peak of inflated expectations for generative AI. What it will do is move through this motion of the trough of disillusionment, which is such a powerful saying, the slope of enlightenment, and then eventually it will move into what they call the plateau of productivity. So right now we've got some outlandish claims from people of all ages about making lots of money, automating everything with generative AI. That will die off over the next year, I think. And then we'll start looking at this moving more into a productivity tool that we can really leverage and maximize as individuals and our organizations too. Let's talk about, when can generative AI tools help you and when can't they? So I'm going to break down my thesis for you here. I believe that generative AI tools aren't going to replace jobs. There will be a disruption to jobs. But what they'll actually do is replace and evolve the tasks that we do in our jobs today. And as a consequence of that, that will change some of the skills that we need. So what I would invite you to do first of all is grab a notebook or get a document open, a Notion doc, and write down a maximum of 10 tasks that you routinely do during the week. And then what we'll do, we'll use that list as an experiment here. So in my table here, it's a very simple framework. You create a 3-column table. At the top of each heading, you have tasks that AI can automate. So basically that technology will completely do for you. Tasks that AI will collaborate on, and tasks that are unique for you to do as the human. So automation, as it says, is technology doing something completely for you. It doesn't need any human interaction. Collaboration is using a tool like ChatGPT to work alongside you on many different tasks. And the human tasks are the things that you'll continue to do in the process. 2 different examples and how we can break down that overarching task into these columns. So for this example, we are going to look at gathering and analyzing data and then communicating that back to an organization. If a part of that task, what we could say is that we could use a artificial intelligence tool to automate the learning data gathering or generation of that data. And then in collaboration, we could use a large language model like ChatGPT or Claude to analyze that learning data for specific insights based on the prompts that we give that tool. That's great because it allows us to synthesize our own thinking, to do that at speed, and also uncover stuff that we may not have thought of. The last part of this kind of mega task here is then looking at, you would take everything you've done so far and you as the human would communicate those insights and actions to your business. The second example is around, how do you market and position your courses to your internal audience? So what we could do from an automation perspective is get an AI tool to schedule course emails and course notifications to students. Really simple, saves so much time. It's been a really big help for my career personally. And the tasks that you can collaborate with generative AI on, as an example, is writing course descriptions, writing those emails, writing those notifications, making them better and formatted for your audience to actually engage them and get them to take action on the things you want them to do. The tasks for the human would be to take all this work that you've already done and build that into an overarching communication and engagement strategy, because it's going to be faster for you to do that with the context that you have instead of an AI tool. This is just a really kind of minimal and simple example on looking at the tasks that you do versus skills and jobs. Based on that assessment of your task, actually going away to look at, can generative AI help you or not? And as I say, if it doesn't help you, then you don't use it. You crack on and you find another way to look at process improvement in what you're doing. But this is something that anyone can do as an individual, as a team, or even a wider organization as well. Look, folks, that's my TED Talk over. Hopefully that has been helpful. If you are interested, I do run a crash course specifically for learning and development and HR professionals to leverage and maximize ChatGPT in your work if you're using ChatGPT Enterprise. So if you would love to be part of that, we've got over 100 people from L&D and HR teams involved so far. It's a self-paced course. That means you can do it whenever you want to, at your own time, in the comfort of wherever you work. And you can also join our community as well, where we have, I think it's about 60 people at the moment who are actively sharing everything they've learned in the course. They're sharing prompts, they're sharing the work they're doing in their own space too. So again, love to have you part of that. I hope today's session has been helpful, and I will speak to you in the next one.